The crowd on the lawn grew as more students joined the walkout. Teachers stood in the doorways, uncertain whether to order students back to class or let the moment unfold. Principal Davidson stood on the front steps, his face red as he spoke urgently into his phone. News cameras captured everything, and phones were recording from every angle. Marcus stood in the center of it all, still processing what was happening. A girl he'd never spoken to before handed him a megaphone. "Say something," she urged. "Tell them why we're here." His hands shook as he took the megaphone. He'd never spoken in front of a crowd before, but he looked out at the sea of faces, students of every race and background, and found his voice. "I came to Riverside Academy because I believed in the promise of a great education," Marcus began, his voice cracking slightly. "I worked hard for my scholarship. I was grateful for the opportunity, but I didn't know that opportunity would come with the price of my dignity." The crowd was silent, listening. Marcus continued, "I've been harassed, bullied, and discriminated against since my first day here. And when I reported it, I was told to keep quiet, to not make waves, to think about the reputations of powerful families. But what about my reputation? What about my right to learn in a safe environment?" Students started clapping. Marcus felt tears threatening but pushed them back. "This isn't just about me. I've learned that other students have suffered too. LGBTQ students, disabled students, students who didn't fit the mold of what this school thought they should be. We've all been told that protecting the school's image was more important than protecting us." Emma stepped forward, taking the megaphone. "I'm Emma Chun. I've watched bullying happen at this school for 3 years and never said anything because I was scared. I'm done being scared. We all deserve better." One by one, other students came forward to share their stories. Sarah talked about her brother who transferred after being tormented. A senior named Derek spoke about being harassed for being gay until he attempted suicide. A girl named Priya described how her learning disability accommodations were ignored, causing her grades to suffer. Each story added to the weight of evidence that Riverside Academy had failed its students repeatedly. Inside the school building, an emergency meeting was taking place. Dr. Green and the school board members huddled with Principal Davidson, Mr. Hartwell, and several major donors, including Robert Montgomery. Through the windows, they could see the growing protest and the news cameras broadcasting it live. "This is a disaster," one board member said, scrolling through social media on his phone. "We're trending nationally. Parents are calling demanding answers." Robert Montgomery slammed his hand on the table. "This is ridiculous. We're letting a bunch of kids and one troublemaker with a lawyer destroy this institution's reputation." "With respect, Mr. Montgomery," Dr. Green said coldly, "your son's actions are destroying this institution's reputation. Those videos Ms. Turner showed us are now all over social media. We can't pretend this didn't happen." Mr. Hartwell pulled up his laptop. "I've been reviewing similar cases. Schools that fought these allegations ended up with federal investigations, massive lawsuits, and permanent damage to their reputations. Schools that took immediate, decisive action and truly reformed managed to recover. So what are you suggesting?" Davidson asked, looking defeated. "We meet every demand Ms. Turner made. We expel Chase Montgomery and any other student we can prove participated in harassment. We fire or suspend staff who witnessed harassment and did nothing. We bring in outside consultants to overhaul our policies and culture. We make a public apology and commit to real change." "Absolutely not," Robert Montgomery said. "I donate $500,000 a year to this school. You expel my son and that money disappears? So does the money from every other family whose kids you throw under the bus?" Dr. Green stood up, her decision made. "Mr. Montgomery, I appreciate your contributions to Riverside Academy, but I'm not willing to sacrifice this school's integrity or future for donation money. If we don't address this properly, we won't have a school left to donate to." She turned to Mr. Hartwell. "Draft an agreement that meets Ms. Turner's demands. Schedule a meeting for 3 p.m., and someone get those students back inside before this becomes a permanent stain on all of us." Outside, the protest continued. Local news reporters had started interviewing students, and their stories were being broadcast live. Marcus's phone buzzed constantly with messages of support from people across the country who'd seen the coverage. But he also received threats and hateful messages from people who believed he was destroying innocent students' lives for attention. Angela Turner arrived at the school with Marcus's mother. They pushed through the crowd to reach Marcus. "We need to talk," Angela said, pulling him aside. "The school board wants to meet at 3. I think they're ready to settle, but I need to know you're prepared for what comes next." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked. "If we do this right, we get justice. Chase and others face consequences, the school changes its policies, and future students are protected. But Marcus, this will follow you. Some people will always see you as the kid who sued the school, who got students expelled, who caused trouble. Are you ready for that?" Marcus looked back at the crowd of students who'd walked out to support him. He thought about Derek, who'd nearly died because no one protected him. He thought about all the kids who'd transferred or dropped out rather than keep fighting. He thought about the students who would come to Riverside Academy in future years. "I'm ready," he said firmly. At 3 p.m. Marcus sat in the conference room again, this time with a crowd of supporters waiting outside. Dr. Green laid out the school's proposal. Chase Montgomery would be expelled immediately. 2 other students who'd participated in documented harassment would be suspended for the remainder of the semester. Principal Davidson would be placed on probation. And 2 teachers who'd witnessed harassment would be required to undergo extensive training or face termination. The school would implement a new anti-discrimination policy with clear reporting procedures and consequences. They would bring in an outside firm to conduct a full culture audit and provide recommendations. They would establish a diversity and inclusion council that included student representatives. And they would issue a public apology to Marcus and all students who'd been failed by the school's previous inaction. "In exchange," Mr. Hartwell said, "Marcus and his family agree not to pursue further legal action or federal complaints against the school." Angela reviewed the terms carefully. "This is contingent on full implementation. If the school fails to follow through on any of these commitments within the specified timeframes, the agreement is void and we reserve the right to pursue all legal remedies." "Agreed," Dr. Green said. "But there's one more thing. Marcus, we'd like you to serve on the new Diversity and Inclusion Council. Your voice and perspective are clearly needed here." Marcus looked at his mother, who nodded encouragingly. "I'll do it. But I want Emma Chun and Sarah Rodriguez on the council too. And Derek Martinez. This can't just be about making me feel better. It has to be about real change for everyone." "Done," Dr. Green said, extending her hand. "I'm sorry we didn't listen sooner, Marcus. That failure is on us and we're committed to doing better." The agreement was signed that afternoon. By evening, the school had released a public statement acknowledging that discrimination and harassment had occurred, apologizing to affected students, and outlining the steps being taken to ensure it never happened again. Chase Montgomery's expulsion was announced, though his name wasn't used in the public statement due to privacy laws. Marcus woke up the next morning to find himself at the center of a national conversation about racism in elite schools, the importance of student activism, and the need for real accountability in educational institutions. His social media was flooded with messages from students at other schools facing similar situations, asking for advice, thanking him for speaking up, but the most meaningful message came from Derek, the senior who'd shared his story at the protest. "You saved my life," Derek wrote. "I was planning to drop out next week. Couldn't take another semester of pretending everything was fine. But seeing everyone come together yesterday, seeing the school actually do something, it gave me hope. Thank you." Marcus sat with that message for a long time, tears streaming down his face. This was why it mattered. Not the news coverage or the viral videos or the satisfaction of watching Chase face consequences. It mattered because it might prevent another kid from feeling so alone and hopeless that they couldn't go. Returning to school on Monday was surreal. The hallways felt different, the atmosphere changed. Some students avoided Marcus's eyes, whether from guilt or resentment he couldn't tell, but others nodded in respect or stopped to thank him. The makeshift memorial someone had created on his locker, covering the old vandalism with messages of support, remained. In his first period class, a new student raised his hand to answer a question. Marcus noticed the pride flag pin on his backpack and the confident way he spoke, unafraid. That small moment of casual openness, something that might have been dangerous a week ago, felt like progress. Emma met him at lunch with the others who'd stood with him from the beginning. They'd claimed a table by the windows, the same area. Marcus walked home that Friday evening with his mind racing. The conversation with Principal Davidson had confirmed what he already suspected. The school would protect its wealthy donors over its vulnerable students. But knowing it and having it said to his face were two different things. His phone buzzed with messages from Emma and the others, checking in, offering support. He'd never had friends like this before, people willing to stand beside him when it would have been easier to look away. His mother, Diane, was already home when he arrived. She worked 2 jobs, one as a nurse's aide and another doing bookkeeping for a small business, but she always made sure to be there when Marcus got home on Fridays. She took one look at his face and knew something was wrong. "Baby, what happened?" she asked, setting down the vegetables she'd been chopping for dinner. Marcus told her everything. The locker, the escalating harassment, the meeting with Principal Davidson and his plan to fight back. His mother listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from concern to anger to something that looked like pride. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone and made a call. "Angela, it's Diane Williams. I need that favor you offered. It's about Marcus and his school." Angela Turner was a civil rights attorney who volunteered at the community center where Diane sometimes helped out. She'd told Diane once that if she ever needed legal help, to call. Marcus had never expected his mother to actually do it. They met with Angela the next morning at a small coffee shop downtown. Angela was a sharp woman in her 50s, with gray-streaked hair and eyes that missed nothing. She listened to Marcus's story, reviewing the documentation he'd compiled on his laptop, watching the videos Emma and Jessica had provided. Her expression grew more serious with each piece of evidence. "This is textbook harassment and discrimination," Angela said finally. "And the school's failure to act, despite clear evidence, opens them up to serious liability. You've done good work documenting everything, Marcus. Most people don't think to do that. So what happens now?" Diane asked, her hand tight on Marcus's shoulder. "Now, we send the school a formal letter detailing the incidents and demanding immediate action. We give them a chance to make this right. If they don't, we file a complaint with the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights and consider a civil suit. Will that get Marcus in trouble at school?" Diane worried. Angela shook her head. "It's illegal for them to retaliate. If they try to punish him for reporting discrimination, that's another violation we can add to the complaint. But I won't lie to you. This won't be easy. These families have money and connections. They'll fight dirty." Marcus met Angela's eyes. "They already are fighting dirty. I'm just finally fighting back." Angela smiled. "Good, that's the attitude we need. Let me draft the letter. In the meantime, Marcus, keep doing exactly what you're doing. Document everything, stay out of trouble, and don't engage with the harassment. Let them dig their own graves." On Monday morning, Principal Davidson received Angela Turner's letter via email and certified mail. The letter detailed every documented incident of racial harassment, named Chase Montgomery and his associates specifically, and cited the school's legal obligation to provide a safe learning environment free from discrimination. It demanded an immediate investigation, disciplinary action against the perpetrators, and implementation of proper anti-discrimination policies. The letter gave the school 10 days to respond with a plan of action. Marcus didn't know the letter had been sent until he was called into Principal Davidson's office second period. This time, Davidson wasn't alone. The school's lawyer, a thin man in an expensive suit named Mr. Hartwell, sat in the corner. Chase Montgomery's father, Robert Montgomery, stood by the window, his arms crossed. "Mr. Williams, please sit down. Davidson said, his voice tight. Marcus sat, his heart pounding but his face calm. He'd expected this. We received a rather aggressive letter from an attorney claiming to represent you, Mr. Hartwell began. These are serious accusations. They're not accusations, Marcus said quietly. They're documented facts. Robert Montgomery turned from the window. My son tells me you've been causing trouble since you arrived at this school. Disrupting classes, starting fights, making wild claims to get attention. Marcus almost laughed at the audacity. I've disrupted nothing. I've started no fights. And my claims are backed by video evidence, witness statements, and school security footage that mysteriously malfunctioned. You need to watch your tone. Young man, Montgomery snapped. Mr. Montgomery? Davidson interjected, holding up a hand. Let's all stay calm. Marcus, no one is accusing you of anything. We're simply trying to understand the situation. The situation is simple, Marcus said. Your student-athletes and children of wealthy donors have been harassing me because of my race. The school has done nothing. Now you're legally obligated to do something. Mr. Hartwell leaned forward. These are very serious claims that could damage the reputations of students and the school itself. Are you certain you want to proceed down this path? There could be consequences. Are you threatening me? Marcus asked directly. Of course not, the lawyer said quickly. I'm simply pointing out that false accusations can have legal ramifications. Then it's a good thing my accusations are true and documented. Marcus stood up. Unless you're planning to actually address the harassment, I have class to get to. Principal Davidson looked uncomfortable. Marcus, sit down. We're not finished. Actually, I think we are. My attorney advised me not to discuss this matter without her present. If you have further questions, you can contact her directly. Her information was in the letter. Marcus walked out, his legs shaking but his head high. He could hear raised voices behind him as the office door closed. He knew he'd just made powerful enemies angrier, but he'd also shown them he wouldn't be intimidated. The rest of the day was strange. Teachers who normally ignored him suddenly paid close attention, as if waiting for him to step out of line. Chase and his friends kept their distance, though Marcus could feel their eyes on him constantly. During lunch, Emma and the others sat with him deliberately, making it clear he wasn't alone. You actually walked out on Principal Davidson and Chase's dad? Sarah whispered, impressed. Angela told me I don't have to answer questions without her there. They were trying to intimidate me into backing down. Jessica nodded. My mom's a lawyer. She says that's classic intimidation tactics. They want you scared, are you? Emma asked quietly. Scared, I mean. Marcus considered the question honestly. Yeah, but I'm more tired than scared. Tired of being treated like I don't belong. Tired of watching them get away with it. That evening, Marcus's phone started blowing up. Someone had leaked that he'd hired a lawyer and was threatening to sue the school. The story had spread across social media, twisted and distorted. According to the rumors, Marcus was just trying to get money or get students expelled out of jealousy, or was making everything up for attention, but something interesting happened. Other students started coming forward, both publicly and privately, with their own stories of harassment and bullying at Riverside Academy. A girl who'd been sexually harassed by members of the football team. A gay student who'd been tormented until he transferred. A disabled student whose accommodations were regularly ignored. The more people talked, the clearer the pattern became. Riverside Academy had a culture problem, and the administration had been covering it up for years. Local news picked up the story by Wednesday. A reporter showed up at the school, asking students and parents for comments. Principal Davidson released a statement, denying any systematic problems and claiming that all allegations were being taken seriously and investigated thoroughly. But the statement was too little, too late. Parents were asking questions. The school board was demanding answers. Marcus was in chemistry class when he was called to the office for the third time that week. This time, when he arrived, he found his mother already there, along with Angela Turner. Also present were Principal Davidson, Mr. Hartwell, Robert Montgomery, and 2 members of the school board. Thank you for coming, Mrs. Williams, said Dr. Patricia Green. the school board president. "We wanted to meet with you and Marcus to discuss a resolution." "A resolution?" Angela said sharply. "You've had 10 days to investigate and take action. The deadline was today. What have you done?" Mr. Hartwell cleared his throat. "We've conducted a preliminary investigation into Marcus's claims. While we haven't found definitive proof of the more serious allegations, we do believe there may have been some misunderstandings and miscommunications that made Marcus feel unwelcome." "Misunderstandings?" Marcus's mother's voice was dangerously quiet. "Someone spray-painted a slur on my son's locker? What exactly was misunderstood?" Dr. Green held up her hands. "No one is minimizing what happened to Marcus. We wanted to make this right. We're prepared to offer a formal apology, provide counseling services to Marcus, and implement new diversity training for students and staff." "And Chase Montgomery?" Angela asked. "What consequences will he face?" Robert Montgomery stepped forward. "Now, wait just a minute. You have no proof my son did anything wrong. This is all speculation and hearsay." Angela opened her laptop and turned it to Facom the cafeteria, showing your son deliberately. Marcus Williams sat in the back of his new classroom, fingers drumming nervously on the desk. The 16-year-old had moved to Riverside Academy just 2 weeks ago, and the stares hadn't stopped. It was one of those fancy private schools where most kids drove cars that cost more than his mom's annual salary. His scholarship was the only reason he could afford to be there, and everyone seemed to know it. The morning started like any other. Marcus walked through the halls with his backpack slung over one shoulder, trying to blend in. But blending in wasn't easy when you were one of only 3 black students in the entire school. He'd learned quickly that some people saw him as a walking stereotype, while others pretended not to see him at all. During lunch, Marcus grabbed his tray and looked for a place to sit. The cafeteria was a maze of social hierarchies, each table representing a different clique. He spotted an empty seat at the end of a table near the windows and headed that way. Before he could set his tray down, a foot shot out from under the table. Marcus stumbled, his lunch flying through the air in slow motion. The tray clattered to the ground, spaghetti and sauce splattering across the pristine white floor. Laughter erupted around him. Marcus looked up to see Chase Montgomery, the school's star quarterback, grinning with his friends. Chase was everything Marcus wasn't: wealthy, popular, and completely untouchable. His father owned half the real estate in town and sat on the school's board of directors. "Oops," Chase said, his voice dripping with fake concern. "Should watch where you're going, scholarship boy." Marcus felt heat rising in his chest, but he swallowed it down. His mother's words echoed in his head. "Don't give them a reason, baby. You're there to learn, not to fight." He bent down and started picking up the mess, ignoring the phones pointed in his direction. Capturing his humiliation for social media, a hand appeared in his vision, holding napkins. Marcus looked up to see Emma Chun, a quiet girl from his chemistry class. She knelt down and helped him clean without saying a word. When they finished, she gave him a small smile and walked away before he could thank her properly. The rest of the day dragged on. In history class, when Marcus answered a question about the civil rights movement, Chase muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. Of course he'd know that one. The teacher, Mr. Peterson, either didn't hear or chose to ignore it. Marcus gripped his pen tighter and kept his eyes on his notebook. After school, Marcus stayed late in the library. It was quiet there, and he could focus on his work without the constant weight of eyes on him. He was deep into a calculus problem when he heard voices near the entrance. Looking up, he saw Chase and 2 of his friends, Tyler and Brad, standing by the reference section. They were laughing about something on Chase's phone. Marcus packed up his things, hoping to slip out unnoticed. But as he walked past them, Chase stepped into his path. "Hey, Williams. You think you're smart, don't you?" Chase's voice was low, meant just for him. "I'm just trying to study," Marcus replied, keeping his tone neutral. "You're trying to show us up, make us look bad." Chase poked him in the chest. "People like you don't belong here. You're only here because they needed to fill some diversity quota." Something in Marcus snapped, not into anger, but into clarity. He'd been walking on eggshells for weeks, taking every insult, every dismissive look, every microaggression. And for what? To make people like Chase comfortable? Actually, Marcus said calmly, meeting Chase's eyes, I'm here because I scored in the top 2% on the entrance exam. I'm here because I earned it. What's your excuse? Chase's face turned red. Before he could respond, the librarian, Mrs. Rodriguez, appeared around the corner. Is there a problem here, boys? No problem, Chase said, his voice suddenly pleasant. Just having a friendly conversation? Mrs. Rodriguez looked between them, her eyes lingering on Marcus with concern. The library closes in 10 minutes. Marcus nodded and walked out, his heart pounding. He knew he'd just made things worse, but he couldn't bring himself to regret it. The next morning, Marcus found his locker vandalized. Someone had spray-painted a racial slur across it in bright red letters. Students walked by, some stopping to stare, others quickly looking away. Marcus stood there, frozen, staring at the hatred dripping down the metal door. Principal Davidson arrived within minutes, his face grave. Mr. Williams, I'm so sorry. This is completely unacceptable. We'll find who did this. But Marcus knew they wouldn't. Or they'd pretend not to know? Chase and his friends were too important, their families too connected. The school would make a statement about zero tolerance. Maybe hold an assembly about diversity and inclusion. And then everything would go back to normal. Except Marcus had already decided that normal wasn't good enough anymore that evening. Marcus sat at the small desk in his bedroom, his laptop open in front of him. He'd been documenting everything since the first day, the comments, the incidents, the times teachers had looked the other way. He had dates, times, witnesses. His mother always told him to keep records, and now he understood why. He opened a new document and began typing. Not a complaint letter, not an angry rant, but a detailed, factual account of every incident of discrimination and harassment he'd experienced at Riverside Academy. He included names, dates, and descriptions of who was present. He noted which teachers and staff had witnessed events and done nothing. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Emma Chun. Are you okay? I saw your locker. That's messed up. Marcus smiled slightly. At least someone cared. He texted back, I'm fine. Thanks for checking. Some of us want to help, Emma wrote. There are students who think what's happening to you is wrong. We just didn't know what to do. Marcus thought about that. Maybe he wasn't as alone as he felt. Can you meet tomorrow before school? Library? I'll be there. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the library early. Emma was already waiting, and she wasn't alone. There were 5 other students with her, 2 juniors he recognized from his English class, a senior girl who played violin in the orchestra, and 2 sophomores who were part of the coding club. We want to help, Emma said simply. What Chase and his friends are doing isn't right, and the school isn't doing anything about it. Marcus looked at the group of faces staring at him with genuine concern and determination. They came from different backgrounds, different social circles, but they shared one thing: they were tired of watching injustice happen without speaking up. I'm documenting everything, Marcus explained. Every incident, every witness, every time the school failed to act. But I need more than just my word. I need other people to come forward. One of the juniors, a girl named Sarah, spoke up. Chase and his crew have been bullies for years. They just usually pick targets who won't fight back or whose parents can't make waves. My brother was on the receiving end last year. He transferred out. I saw what happened in the cafeteria, the senior violinist, Jessica, added. I took a video. I wasn't sure what to do with it, but I still have it. Over the next hour, the group shared their own stories and observations. Chase's pattern of behavior became clear. He targeted students he saw as beneath him, knowing his family's influence would protect him. The school's administration had settled complaints quietly in the past, paying families off or encouraging students to transfer, but Marcus wasn't planning to transfer. And he wasn't planning to stay quiet. Here's what I'm thinking, Marcus said, pulling out his laptop. We build a case so solid that the school can't ignore it or sweep it under the rug. We document everything going forward. We collect statements from anyone willing to provide them. And we go public if we have to. Public how? Emma asked. Social media, local news, the school board. My mom knows a civil rights attorney from her community center. If the school won't protect its students, maybe the court of public opinion will force their hand. The group agreed to meet regularly, to watch out for each other, and to document any further incidents. Marcus felt something he hadn't felt since arriving at Riverside Academy: hope, but he also knew that things were about to get much worse before they got better. Chase and his friends wouldn't take kindly to being challenged, and the school's administration would likely circle the wagons to protect their reputation. Marcus was right. Over the next few days, the harassment intensified. Someone created a fake social media account in Marcus's name, posting offensive content. His textbooks went missing from his locker. In gym class, he got accidentally elbowed in the face during basketball, resulting in a bloody nose, but now Marcus wasn't facing it alone. Emma and the others were there, documenting, witnessing, supporting. When Chase tried to trip him in the hallway, 3 people saw it and reported it. When someone wrote another slur on his desk, Jessica was there to photograph it before the teacher could erase it. Principal Davidson called Marcus into his office on Friday afternoon. The principal looked uncomfortable, his hands folded on his desk. Marcus, I'm concerned about the tension that seems to be following you around school. Davidson began carefully. Marcus felt anger flare but kept his voice level. The tension isn't following me, sir. It's being directed at me. There's a difference. I understand you're upset about the locker incident. We're still investigating. It's been 4 days. The cameras in that hallway should have caught who did it. Davidson shifted in his seat. The camera's in.